All right, so our final step, part 4. We have already identified our data on the World Bank website, imported it to the Power Query in Excel, then imported it, saved it as a CSV, then imported it to Tableau, prepped it. We've created a calculated field, and we've done our first map. Now we're going to create our second graphic at an aggregation level of our choice. And then we're going to nest this all in a single dashboard, publish it, and print and export a PNG file to submit in Canvas to complete the assignment. All right, so I've got my table that shows my 5 years of indicators. I've got my indicator of change. I've got my map. And now I am going to create my last visual. So I am going to do this a quick way based on the data set, given my information of it. I'm going to use country code to start. I'm going to pull country name over here. And I'm going to take a peek through this just so I can get an understanding on what we have. Okay. So you'll see here that I have both countries and aggregates. So I'm going to quickly go back into my data catalog because I want to make this quick for myself and easy. I'm going to do this as one quick demo. All right, so I'm going back in here. I don't have anything selected right now. Instead of selecting all countries, I'm going to come on over here to aggregates and I'm going to make some decisions. Okay, now there's a lot of different ways I could aggregate this by. All right, I could do it by income level. I could do it by geographic location as well. So I am going to do it by big geography. So I'm going to select Sub-Saharan Africa. I'm going to select South Asia. I'll do the Pacific Island states as their own. I'm going to select the world overall. All right, I'm going to do Middle East and North Africa. I'm going to do North America. I'm going to do Latin America and the Caribbean. And then I will do Europe, Central Asia, East Asia, and the Pacific. And then I think that's it. Latin America and the Caribbean. All right. I'm going to go ahead and select my same series. And again, I'm just doing this at the aggregate so that I can create a very similar graphic. Okay, again, I'm going to pull the exact same data, forest, over the last 10 years. All right, I'm going to apply these changes. Go ahead and download my CSV. View it really quickly. I'm going to extract it to my folder. All right. There it goes. Go ahead and Excel. I'm going to get my data. This time I'm going to use my shortcut button. It's making its connection. It's a much smaller data set. Okay, I'm going to transform the data again really quickly. Okay, it looks like it automatically promoted the headers this time for me, which is great, but I still have this junk at the bottom. So I'm just going to really quickly remove those 5 rows from the bottom. Rename this as region deforest, or we'll call this forest area. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and close and load it. Again, just real quick. Add this to the data model if I want it. In this instance, I'm not going to. I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to get rid of this one just so it clearly knows. And I will do a quick save as a CSV. Okay. This is our aggregate file. Go ahead and navigate to the place that I want it to save to. Then I'm going to make sure that instead of an Excel workbook, it's a CSV. Click on save. All right, I'm going to close it out. I'm going to head back into my Tableau. All right, I'm going to just do this one real quick. All right, then I'm going to click on data and I'm going to add this new data source. So should be a much smaller file, shouldn't take long at all to load. Right, and I'll see that I have it here by my big geographies. All right, so I'm going to quickly go ahead and add a new graph. Now I'm going to create that same year-over-year change calculation once it creates this extract. Okay. Oh, so again, you'll notice that we've got to make sure that it recognizes these at measures. I would rename them if I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and create that calculated field right here. So we're going to say year-over-year change for the aggregate. All right, we're going to start with our most recent year, which is 2021, against our initial year, divided by, again, our initial year. And then we multiply that entire thing by 100 to get our calculation. So now when I pull country name over here, it's not going to allow me to map it because none of those are mappable countries, they're regions, but I can still create that table. I'm going to rename this sheet year over year change in forest by forest coverage. We'll say land coverage by region. Okay. Again, I'm just on my way to my final graph here. I'm going to grab that year over year change and pull it right here. And then it's going to now give me some suggestions about potential graphics that I could choose. So I could just kind of play around with this. Well, this is one way to do it. So what this has done is this is highlighted for me. It hasn't changed the table, but it's highlighted for me which areas have experienced the most deforestation. This is overall the world because these areas are so big as a percentage of the land mass of our world. This is pretty alarming. These also happen to be concentrations where countries have, some of the more developing economies, things like this. And so they are areas that are also disproportionately affected by lineages of colonialism, things like that. So it is concerning that they are experiencing this negative change in forest growth, where it looks like the rest of the world has had the opposite occurring. All right, so this is one way I could look at it. I could look at it as a graph like this. Okay, I could again pull that color here, and it tells the same exact story, just in a slightly different way. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this as a crosstab so I have it. And I do like this one as well. And I am just going to call this one, let's say, okay. So now I've got these 4 different sheets that I've created. Got my base table here, all my data. I've got my map, which I've shown where things change. And I'm actually going to give myself a little bit more context here. So some places had 0 change. Now I could, if I wanted to edit the color scheme, for example, I could. The blue orange diverging is really good because it is ADA compliant for folks who may be colorblind. Like this red and green diverging wouldn't be very, very helpful. So I tend to leave it on the default because it still tells the same story. As you get more orange or bright red, if you will, bad, or more concerning, and then to the right it's lighter. Okay. So the last step that we're going to do now is to create that dashboard. So up until this point, we've just been creating new worksheets, and this time we're going to do a new dashboard. And now we can just drag and drop things over here just to kind of, quickly see where everything is. So here we go. Now I want to put this down here. I want to bump this out as a pop out so it's floating. This is a different year-over-year change. So at the aggregate, I have a slightly smaller year-over-year change, obviously, because I'm working with the aggregate at this time than I do when I'm looking at the country level overall. So I'm going to go ahead, bring this down here. Okay. So move this one over here now. All right. So the last step I want to do is I want to, get a little bit more visual clarity here so that it's very clear what the different containers are. So this is defaulting to a desktop browser. So I'm going to add a few elements in here just to give myself some space to work with. So I'm going to do a vertical one right here. So basically this is just giving me some space, some physical space in between the two. Okay, I'm going to make it small because I really don't want it to be big. I just want it to have a different color. Okay, so I'm going to put that there. Right. And then I'm going to also jump into this table and I'm going to take the opportunity go. So I've now colored it so that I can see too in this one very quickly. But I also want to change this slightly. I'm going to, instead of the automatic option, which is to color the text, I'm going to click on square and it'll give me that same visual. So I've got that really clear indicator of who's doing well and who's struggling. Let me pop back in my dashboard and I should see this change reflected there. I could have made the change in here, but it's just a little bit easier to do it in the other tool. So some other changes just stylistically that I'm going to make is I'm going to fit to the entire view. Nope, that doesn't work. I'm going to fit to width. There we go. So now I can see everything right here. All right, same thing with this one. I'm just going to slightly drag it over, see if that distributes this a tiny bit better for me. It does. Okay. So let's say I wanted to quickly filter and sort this. I could click this little indicator right here. I could have up on top the place that's had the most positive growth, which these are very small, countries. So their percentage overall, is really good, but we have some others as well. So if we flipped it the other way, we could see the folks, obviously there's some where there's no data at all, but, again, Ivory Coast, Nicaragua, Gambia, these are countries that are experiencing rapid deforestation. So we could look at this a number of different ways if we wanted to. All right, so I'm just going to play with things a little bit here to make sure it's, all clear. I'm going to unsort this, just go back to alphabetical. I'm going to come down here and, make sure this isn't hovering over anything. Don't want it to be. All right. All right. Same thing here. I'm going to fit to the width. All right, there we go. So now I've got a pretty good visual here that I feel comfortable with. I have addressed all of my data points. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this as my 5-year World Bank indicator visualization. Okay, I'm going to show this sheets as tabs. We don't have any data sources in it right now, so I'm not going to worry about embedding it. I could click on this optimizer. It says 2 things need action. I've got unused fields. That's okay. Non-materialized calculations. That's also okay with me. I'm going to go ahead and publish. Oops. Try that one more time. So this is Ivy. This is my module 4. 5-year Bizzo from the World Bank, World Development Indicators. Okay. Once I've published it, I will then have the ability to export that PNG. So it is now available on the web for viewing. Once this spinner stops, I'll be able to use that export function. And now there are some things I want to call out just while there it goes. It's finished. I would spend a little bit of time making sure that these are clearly percentages. You know, this could play around a little bit. This doesn't necessarily need to be so much bigger. You know, there's many options available to us here.